There's a morning that comes for almost everyone. You open your eyes, you breathe, you move through the motions of a life you built, and yet something feels off, quiet, but unmistakable. You look around at everything you've assembled, and you ask yourself one simple question: where did I go? Not your job, not your obligations, not the version of you that other people expect to see. I mean, the dreamer, the one who used to feel fully awake inside their own life. If that question just landed somewhere in your chest, I want you to know something. You can come back. You can rebuild. You can meet, again, the person you were always supposed to become. But it starts with a single decision, the decision to go looking for yourself. There's something almost magnetic about that kind of return. Life has a way of pulling us away from ourselves without ever asking permission. When we're young, we dream without hesitation. We don't second-guess our worth. We simply live, curious, unfiltered, fully present. Then, slowly, the shift begins. We start tuning into the noise of the world and turning down the volume on our own instincts. We trade honesty for approval. We trade ambition for safety. We learn to get through the day instead of actually living it. And then one morning you catch your reflection and barely recognize the person looking back. You wonder, when exactly did I disappear? Here's what I want you to hear, clearly. Losing yourself was never a failure. It was proof that you were adapting, giving, carrying weight, surviving. But surviving was only ever meant to be a chapter, not the whole story. Now it's time to write the next one. Finding yourself again isn't about rewinding the tape. It's not about chasing old memories or trying to relive some golden era. It's about reconnecting with the part of you that never actually left. It just went quiet. That version of you is still there, waiting, patient, ready the moment you slow down long enough to listen. Not everyone gets to this point. Some people spend an entire lifetime avoiding the question, filling every hour with distractions so they never have to sit still with themselves. But the ones who do stop, who reflect, who choose to look inward, those are the ones who transform, not through pressure, through awareness. Awareness says, this version of me isn't the final draft. Awareness says, there's more inside me than I've been allowing myself to live. Awareness says, I may have drifted, but I was never truly gone. So where do you begin? Not with a 5-year plan, not with certainty. You begin with honesty. Sit with yourself. Not the version the world sees, but the one underneath. Ask the real questions. What do I actually want? What did I quietly give up believing in? What dream did I shelve because it felt too big for me? Who am I when there's no audience at all? Honest questions produce honest answers. And some of them will surprise you. Some will challenge you. Some will wake up a part of you that's been asleep for years. Finding yourself takes courage, not the loud kind. Quiet kind that simply says, I refuse to stay lost. Here's the strange, wonderful thing that happens once you start remembering who you are. Your standards rise. Your voice comes back. Your confidence rebuilds itself, piece by piece. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop settling. You stop performing fine when your gut knows otherwise. This isn't a single decision made in one sitting. It's a process, a long walk back to something real. But every honest reflection, every small brave choice, moves you closer to a life that actually feels like yours. And when you arrive there, you won't just feel functional. You'll feel live, truly, fully yourself. So let this be the beginning of remembering, reclaiming, rebuilding. Because the longest journey any of us will ever take is the one back to ourselves. And if you're just starting now, you're not behind. You're exactly on time. What you actually stand for before you can find yourself, you have to know what you stand for. Values aren't slogans you print on a wall. They're not what looks good in a bio. Values are behavior. They're the invisible compass, steering every decision you make, whether you notice it or not. I think back to a period in my own life when, on paper, everything looked right. I'd climbed the ladder. I had the title, the paycheck, the respect of people around me. And still, I'd come home, sit in silence, and feel completely hollow. Successful by every external measure, and somehow a stranger to myself. I eventually realized I'd been living by someone else's rulebook, chasing targets that meant nothing to me, ignoring the quiet voice that used to guide every choice I made. So I stopped. I sat with the questions I'd been avoiding for years. What actually matters to me? What do I want to represent? Who do I actually want to become? It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't quick, but it was the beginning of something real. Most people never ask these questions. They drift, pulled by expectation, by circumstance, by whatever's loudest that day. But when you pause and actually reflect, patterns start to surface. I began noticing which moments made me feel proud, aligned, genuinely myself, and which moments quietly drained me. The times I said yes when everything in me wanted to say no. The times I followed a path that was never mine to begin with. Out of that reflection, a handful of values rose to the surface. For me, one became integrity, in my work, in my relationships, in the way I think when no one's watching. Another became growth, a refusal to stay still, to stop learning. Another became courage, the courage to say no, to walk away, to live out loud as myself. Once those values were clear, decisions got simpler. I stopped agonizing over every choice. I just asked, does this line up with what I stand for? If yes, I moved forward. If no, I let it go. Here's the truth nobody tells you. You cannot find yourself by following the crowd, by meeting everyone else's expectations, by avoiding the harder conversations with yourself. It takes courage to face who you really are, to release the mask you've been wearing, to live in step with your own values, even when it costs you comfort, approval, or relationships that no longer fit. If you want a starting point, here's the process I still use today. One. Reflect on your proudest moments. What principles were guiding you when you felt most alive? 2. Reflect on your lowest moments. What standards did you compromise? What made you feel disconnected from yourself? 3. Look for the patterns. Your values show up in what repeatedly energizes you and what repeatedly frustrates you. 4. Narrow it down to 3 to 5 core values. Too many, and you lose focus. 5. Live by them daily. Let them shape your decisions, your goals, your everyday choices. Once you know your values, something shifts permanently. You can't unsee them. You can't quietly compromise without noticing. They become the foundation everything else is built on. Your choices, your habits, your direction. So start today. Sit still. Ask the hard questions. Name what actually matters, and build your life around it. Letting go of what broke you sometimes. Finding yourself again means releasing something first. Not just the easy things, the real things, the habits that wore you down, the people who doubted you, the environments that made you feel small without you even noticing. I remember a stretch of my life surrounded by people who didn't believe in what I was building. They laughed off my ideas. They questioned every move I made. And slowly, without any single dramatic moment, I stopped believing in myself too. It wasn't sudden. It was the accumulation of 100 small compromises. Then one day I paused and asked myself, why do I feel like I'm shrinking? And the answer wasn't fate or bad luck. It was the people, the habits, and the excuses I kept letting into my life. That was the turning point. To rebuild, I first had to remove what had broken me. First, toxic relationships. Not every person who drains you is a bad person. Some simply aren't meant to walk the next chapter with you. You cannot grow while carrying someone else's doubt. I had people I cared about whose fear became my fear. Traditions I followed that no longer matched who I wanted to be. Creating distance gave me room to breathe and space to grow. Second, harmful habits. Habits are invisible chains. Some quiet, like endless scrolling or constant avoidance. Some loud, like anger or addiction. I remember my own habit of procrastination. Always telling myself I'd start tomorrow. Every delayed action was another brick in a wall between me and who I actually wanted to be. So I began removing them, one at a time, with intention. Third, the old stories. The stories that said, I can't. I'll never be enough. I'll fail again. Those stories ran my life quietly in the background until I decided to rewrite them. I am capable. I can grow. I can rise above what happened before. Your words build the walls of your world. Choose the ones that build you up, not the ones that box you in. None of this is easy. It takes patience, honesty, and no small amount of courage. But the space you create by letting go is the same space where growth, clarity, and freedom eventually move in. So ask yourself, honestly, what or who is breaking me right now? What habits are holding me in place? What stories no longer serve who I'm becoming? Name them, then begin removing them, one at a time. The strongest, most authentic version of you is waiting on the other side of that clearing. Building real strength was never something you're simply born with. It's built. piece by piece, choice by choice. And the first step toward it is self-knowledge, knowing your values, your weaknesses, and what shaped you. I've had seasons of failure, disappointment, real loss, days I felt small, days I questioned whether I had anything left to give. Eventually, I understood something important. Strength isn't the absence of falling. It's the practice of getting back up every time. It starts with discipline, not the punishing kind, but the kind that quietly shapes character. I started small, waking early, reading, moving my body, writing down what mattered, reflecting at the end of each day. Simple, repetitive, unremarkable to anyone watching. It compounded, because real strength is built in the moments no one sees. Strength also requires resilience. Life will test you, and some people fold under that pressure. I remember a project of mine that failed in a very public, very embarrassing way. Instead of walking away, I asked one question. What can this teach me? That single shift in perspective changed everything. Strength isn't just surviving the storm. It's growing from it. Strength needs direction. Without purpose, strength just becomes energy with nowhere to go. When I chose to find myself again, I also chose to act with intention, to build a life I actually wanted, not the one others expected of me. Strength is also made of habits, the ones that reinforce who you're trying to become. Reading, moving, reflecting, showing up for others, day after day. Small, repeated actions that eventually add up to something extraordinary. And finally, strength requires emotional mastery. Not suppressing what you feel, but understanding it before you act on it. I remember a conflict that could have ended a friendship. Instead of reacting, I paused, reflected, and responded with honesty. That relationship grew stronger because of it. The strongest version of yourself is already inside you, waiting for discipline, resilience, purpose, and courage to bring it forward. Strength was never about defeating anyone else. It's about mastering yourself. Living fully awake life isn't something that simply happens to you. It's something you build. And the power to build it starts from within, with finding yourself, understanding your values, releasing what held you back, and developing real strength. All of it leads to this: living fully, deliberately awake. That kind of life starts with clarity. Once you know who you are and what you'll no longer accept, decisions get simpler. I remember sitting with a notebook after a long, difficult season, asking myself plainly, what kind of life do I actually want? What do I want to be remembered for? The answer came, not from outside approval, but because I had genuinely found myself again. It also requires responsibility. Most people wait for permission, for luck, for the right moment. Empowered people don't wait. They take ownership of their results, their choices, their reactions. I once watched a business I built fail completely. Could have blamed circumstances. Instead, I took responsibility, studied what went wrong, came back sharper for the next opportunity. Responsibility, it turns out, is its own kind of freedom. It takes courage, too, not the absence of fear, but movement in spite of it. I remember walking into a room full of people more experienced than me, feeling entirely out of place, and speaking up anyway. That single moment reminded me that empowerment shows up the instant you refuse to shrink. It's built through consistency, the small, unglamorous choices no one applauds. Waking early, showing respect even when it isn't returned, choosing integrity when no one's watching, and it requires gratitude. I've had seasons where I achieved plenty and felt strangely empty, because I was too busy comparing my progress to everyone else's. The moment I shifted toward gratitude, everything changed. Small wins became worth celebrating. Resilience turned into genuine joy. Finally, it requires generosity. True empowerment was never meant to be hoarded. The moments I've shared what I've learned, supported someone through a hard season, or simply offered encouragement, those moments gave me more fulfillment than any personal win ever did. Empowerment multiplies the moment it touches someone else. So, what does life look like after you've found your way back to yourself? It looks like waking up with purpose, pursuing your goals with quiet confidence, meeting challenges with resilience instead of panic, making decisions rooted in intention, not obligation, acting from your own values instead of someone else's expectations. More than anything, it looks like finally, truly, feeling alive. Mark Douglas.